It was on the road again for the Trojans, this time to Thibodaux, Louisiana, and the 1AA Colonels of Nicholls State. The Trojans came away with a 17-17 tie. The Trojans were down 3-0 when freshman fullback Tony Jackson went 15 yards for a score behind the blocks of Steve Campbell, Ed Huey, and Mark Story. Ted Clem added the extra point to give Troy State a 7-3 lead with 5:30 left in the first quarter. The Trojans upped the lead to 14-6 on Mike Turk's 4-yard keeper and Clem's point after. The score came with just over 10 minutes to go in the half. The Colonels tied it at 14 on the opening drive of the second half. Bobby McDonald hit Alfred Dorsey with a 37-yard scoring strike. They went 4-2 and made it with 11:05 left in the third quarter. The Trojans took a 17-14 lead on Ted Clem's 20-yard field goal with 5:19 left in the quarter. Nicholls tied it on Jim Wyndham's 21-yarder with 53 seconds left in the quarter. In the fourth period, Troy State's Clem just missed a 40-yard shot with 1:39 left, and the Colonel's Wyndham missed a 20-yarder with 7 seconds left. 17-17. The Trojans had kissed their sister. The offense and defense came together for the Trojans in their home opener September the 19th against the Buffaloes of West Texas State. Turk pitches to Freddie Taylor from the 10, and the Trojans are on top 7-0 after Clem's point after with 1:22 left in the first quarter. With 13:40 left in the half, Troy State made it 14-0 when quarterback Bob Godsey hit Greg Harris with a beautiful pass for 39 yards. The defense got its first score of the season. West Texas State quarterback Steve Cragthorpe is flush from the pocket and throws on the run. Kerry Brooks intercepts and goes in for a touchdown. With Clem's extra point, the Trojans had a 31-0 halftime lead. The defense did the job all game long. Andrew Wright, Brian Hubbard make the hit on James Morton, and Mitch Parnell fell on it for the recovery. Late in the third quarter, Freddie Thomas picked off this Cragthorpe pass in the end zone to stop what was the deepest drive by West Texas State. The Trojans went on to a 45-0 win. And a la the New York Giants, it was dunk time for Coach Rick Rhodes. Freddie Thomas played the part of the Giants' Harry Carson. The Trojans were now 1-1-1. The Trojans hit the road again the following week, heading upstate to Livingston. The Tigers turned out to be a tough opponent. The Trojans took an early 7-0 lead when Tony Jackson went in from the 4 with 7:25 left in the opening quarter. Livingston had a chance to get on the board on the first play of the second quarter, but Doug Paris blocked Mike Crawford's 39-yard field goal attempt, and the Trojans had the ball at the 9. Troy State marched 91 yards to score, with a knockout coming on a 63-yard pass from Mike Turk to Titus Dixon. Great block by Robert Carter to set up Mike. Ted Clem kicked the extra point, and with 11:59 left in the half, Troy State led 14-0. Clem added a third quarter field goal to make it 17-0 before the Tigers scored to make it 17-7. Troy State was leading 24-14 with 5:55 left in the game as the Tigers attempted a field goal. But the snap was bad and the holder, Kenneth Jones, tried a pass that was picked off by Freddie Thomas at the 9 and brought it back to the 14. After a Livingston field goal made it 24-17 Troy, the Tigers had the ball with time running out and threatening. But Al Harris picked off a third down pass to preserve a 24-17 win. It was back home the next week for West Georgia, with Troy State on top 3-0 after a Ted Clem 40-yard field goal. The Braves threatened. On 4th and 2 from the Trojan 29, the Braves' Stevie Young is stopped for no gain by Freddie Thomas and Garrick Pimenta. Another Clem field goal gave the Trojans a 6-0 lead with 13:51 left in the half. West Georgia tied the game after a touchdown and a missed extra point with 11:45 left in the half. But the Trojans answered that with a 75-yard drive that ended when Travis Linesberger scored from the 8. Clem added the point after, and the Trojans led 13-7. The Trojans took a 20-6 lead on Tommy Dugash's 5-yard run. He got a nice block from Dixon. Clem added a late field goal to give Troy State a 23-6 halftime lead. The score remained that way until the fourth quarter. Late in the third, though, Mike Turk hit Greg Harris for 32 yards and a first down at the West Georgia 8. On the first play of the fourth quarter, Tony Jackson went in from the 1, And with Clem's point after, the Trojans had driven 90 yards to take a 30-6 lead. They would score 2 more times to make the final 44-6. The Trojans also set a school record with 621 total yards. Next up for the Trojans, a Gulf South Conference showdown with 7th-ranked and unbeaten Valdosta State in Valdosta, Georgia. The Trojans were the last team to beat the Blazers, who were riding a 10-game winning streak. The Trojans will stop that, and they started early. Titus Dixon gave the Trojans great field position with a return of 39 yards to the 50, behind some great blocking on the opening kickoff. 5 plays later, from the Blazer 20, Mike Turk hit a wide-open Dixon for the touchdown. And with Ted Clem's point after, the Trojans led 7-0 with 13:11 left in the opening quarter. The Trojans built a 16-0 lead on 3 Clem field goals. And we pick up the action on the kickoff following Ted's 3rd three-pointer. Clifford Scott gets it, is hit by Willie Banks and fumbles. Jay Cozio falls on it, and the Trojans are in business at the Blazer 31 with 29 seconds left. Turk got a first down at the 19 on a 12-yard keeper. And then, with time running out, Mike throws an absolutely beautiful pass to Greg Harris, who makes a great catch in the corner of the end zone for a touchdown. Clem's extra point gave the Trojans a 23-0 halftime lead. The Trojan defense didn't allow the Blazers to get into the game. In the 3rd quarter, on a first down from the Trojan 5, quarterback Mark Dace gets 3 on a keeper. He's hit by Garrick Pimenta, Brian Hubbard, and Freddie Thomas. On the 2nd down play, David Summerall, Thomas, and Doug Paris get together to throw Donnie Harrell for a loss of 1. And on 3rd and goal from the 3, Hubbard nailed Dace for a 7-yard loss. The Blazers missed a field goal, and the Trojans held on to that 23-0 lead. Troy State went on to a 44-7 win as Harris caught 7 passes for 104 yards. Troy State racked up 533 yards of total offense while holding the Blazers to just 172. The Trojans were now 4-1-1 and looking good with a 3-0 Gulf South Conference record. Next up for the Trojans, an old nemesis, the Choctaws of Mississippi College. Besides being a big conference game, the night belonged to the American textiles industries, which was recognized with pregame festivities and a special halftime presentation by the Sound of the South Band and fireworks. The fireworks started early for the Trojans. This Turk to Dixon pass was good for 17 yards to the Mississippi College 21. After a loss and an offsides by the Trojans, fullback Jackson went 25 yards to the 3. Turk was thrown for a 5-yard loss, but on the next play, Jackson went in from the 8 behind some great line blocking. Clem added the extra point, and the Trojans were on top 7-0 with 10:44 left in the first quarter. The Choctaws tied it at 7 with 7:21 left in the opening period, but on their kickoff, tight end Brent Rowe took the short kick and returned it 23 yards to the Mississippi College 49-yard line. 7 plays later, on 4th and 2 from the 29, Bob Godsey keeps on the option and goes down the sidelines for a touchdown. Clem added the extra point to give the Trojans a 14-7 lead. They enjoyed a 21-7 lead at the half. Dixon ignited a quick second-half touchdown when he returned the kickoff 61 yards to the Mississippi College 34-yard line. Jackson went up the middle for 29 yards to the 5, and then Turk took it in from there. Clem added the extra point, and just 46 seconds into the second half, Troy State was on top 28-7. The Trojans went on to win 41-28 to up their record to 4-0 in the Gulf South Conference and 5-1-1 overall. The Trojans were on the road for an October 24th meeting with Delta State in Cleveland, Mississippi. After Clem gave the Trojans a 3-0 lead with 39-yard field goal early in the first quarter, the Trojans struck again from the Delta State 33. Dixon got the call on a reverse. Checked the blocks by Brent Rowe, Reginald Hutchinson, Stuart Vines, and Richard Dobbs. The play gains 26 yards. 2 plays later, Robert Carter goes in from the 4, and with Clem's point after, the Trojans led 10-0 with 3:09 left in the first quarter. A big play came at about the midway point of the second quarter. The Statesmen had a 4th and 3 situation and faked a punt, but the defense reacted quickly, stopping Dennis Holt a yard short of the first down marker. Brian Hubbard, Andrew Wright, Phil Brown, and Garrick Pimenta were there. That eventually led to another Trojan touchdown as Turk went in on a keeper to the right from the 7-yard line. With the extra point, Troy State led 17-0 with 4:25 left in the half. The Trojans iced the game with 5:59 left in the third quarter when Tommy Dugas scored from the 8-yard line. With Clem's kick, it was 24-0. Troy State went on to a 38-6 win, which improved its record to 5-0 in the conference and 6-1-1 overall. Troy State's homecoming opponent hardly fit the cupcake role normally associated with homecoming at most places. North Alabama went into the Troy game ranked 8th in the nation and sporting a 6-0-1 record. Troy State was ranked 6th. No one in their right mind would predict what actually happened. After the defense forced the Lions to punt on the game's opening series, the Trojans went to work from their 7-yard line. The Trojans steadily moved upfield. Turk hit Rowe for a big first down here. On 3rd and 10 from the Trojans' 38, Turk hit Greg Harris for another big first down to the Lions' 48. 2 plays later from the 40, Turk snaked his way into the end zone for a touchdown. Clem's point after attempt hit the upright, but Troy State led 6-0 with 8:46 showing on the first quarter clock. The Lions moved deep into Trojan territory late in the quarter. From the Trojan 22, Ken Higginbotham got 5 to the 17. But on the next play, Lonnie Mister's pass is overthrown and Doug Paris is there to intercept, and the drive is stopped. In the second quarter, the Trojans had the ball at the Lions' 42. Dixon got the call on a reverse, waits for some blocks, and goes to the 11-yard line. A 31-yard gain. 2 plays later, Jackson is in the end zone and the Trojans lead 12-0. They go for the 2-point conversion and make it when Turk keeps to the left. With 10:41 left in the half, Troy State leads 14-0. The Trojan defense was awesome on this homecoming. On this play, Mitch Parnell, Nolan Dawson, and Freddie Thomas meet at the tailback and throw Larry Webb for a 5-yard loss. The Trojans got a 33-yard field goal from Clem with 5:07 left in the half, and that made it 17-0. On North Alabama's next series, Mister's pass is picked off by Pimenta, and the Trojans have it at the North Alabama 49 after a clipping call against Troy State. On the first play from there, quarterback Godsey throws to Greg Harris, who makes one of the finest catches ever in Memorial Stadium, or any other place for that matter. That put the ball at the Lions' 21-yard line. 4 plays later, Robert Carter goes through a huge hole at the 9 and goes in practically untouched. Clem's point after gave Troy State a 24-0 lead at the half. Troy State added 2 more second-half touchdowns, and the defense held North Alabama to only 250 total yards as the Trojans surprised the Lions to the tune of 38-3. The win moved Troy State to 7-1-1 overall and 6-0 in the Gulf South Conference. The Trojans celebrated another homecoming the next week. This time it was Tennessee Martin's affair. The Pacers were an improved football team and showed that during the game. The Troy State defense did the job early, and the Pacers punted to the Trojan 1-yard line. After a Tony Jackson blast to the 3, Turk hit Dixon with a quick out, and Titus raced the rest of the way. 97 yards on the play, and it was 7-0 Troy State with 12:08 left in the first quarter. However, Martin came back to tie the score on this pass from Leon Reed to Henry Allen with 5:35 left in the first quarter. Clem gave the Trojans a 10-7 lead with a 36-yard field goal early in the second quarter. Then after a Pacer punt, the Trojans moved 86 yards in 5 plays. The last 2 were big gainers. Turk hit Brent Rowe for 33 yards to the Pacer 37. And then on the next play, Mike found Harris wide open for the score. Clem's point after made it 17-7 with 7 minutes left in the half. The Pacers wouldn't quit, though. Reed made it close with a scramble, and at the half, Troy State held on to a 17-14 lead. All season long, the Trojans were able to capitalize on opponents' mistakes. In the early stages of the second half, Reed hit Henry Allen, but Freddie Thomas put a hit on the Pacer receiver. He coughed up the ball, and Thomas Miller falls on it at the 50-yard line. 6 plays later, the Trojans are in the end zone. Freddie Taylor gets the honors from the 5, and with 8:04 left in the third quarter, Troy State leads 24-14. The Pacers made it 24-21 and had the ball at their 8-yard line following a Trojan punt. A big defensive series here probably saved the game for the Trojans. On first down, John Birch is thrown for a 4-yard loss by Shane Lewis and Garrick Pimenta. A face masking call against Troy puts the ball at the 9, still second down. Birch got 6 up the middle. On 3rd and 3, Reed is forced to scramble and is finally corralled for a 6-yard loss at the 9. That forced the punt, which gave the Trojans the ball in good field position at the Pacer 47. The Trojans punched it in with 12:27 left in the game and came away with a shaky 31-21 win. The Trojans were pretty much assured of a bid to the NCAA Division II playoff, but you can never tell when voting is involved, so Troy State needed a win against Jacksonville State in the season finale to assure a spot in the Final 8. Troy State's adopted #1 fan, Troy Morgan, served as one of the captains along with the seniors. The Gamecocks put points on the board first, a 32-yard field goal by Ashley Kay. The lead wouldn't last the quarter. On 2nd and 8 from the Trojan 44, Turk ran for 24 yards to the Gamecock 32. 2 plays later, Turk hit a wide-open Greg Harris for the score. With 4:48 left in the first quarter, Troy State took a 7-3 lead. In the second quarter, the Trojan defense recoiled a Jacksonville State threat. Brian Hubbard and Garrick Pimenta make the hit on Solomon Rivers after a gain of 3 to the Trojan 17. Willie Banks forces a bad pitch by quarterback David Gullidge. That's a loss of 9 yards. Then on 3rd down and 16, Phil Brown breaks up the pass intended for Ronnie Oliver. The Gamecocks have to settle for a field goal, and the Trojans still led 7-6 with 2:47 left in the half. But the Trojans took the kickoff and marched 75 yards in 6 plays. Tony Jackson got the touchdown with 56 seconds left in the half. Clem added the extra point, and Troy State had a 14-6 lead. The second half was all defense as the Trojans held on for a 14-9 win and a 9-1-1 regular season record. The Trojans finished with an 8-0 conference record. The second year in a row, the Trojans have gone unbeaten in the conference. It was also a record 18th conference win in a row, dating back to the 1985 season. The first round of the playoff brought Winston-Salem State of the Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association. Like just about everyone else on the Trojans' 87 schedule, the Rams were big. But the Trojans started the game with their trademark, hard-hitting defense. As a matter of fact, the defense accounted for an early score. After Ted Clem put the Trojans up 3-0 with a 39-yard field goal early, the Rams were marching. But quarterback Bobby Jr. was pressured and tried to unload. Phil Brown stepped in and went 75 yards for a score. Clem added the extra point, and Troy State led 10-0 with 7:44 left in the first quarter. After a Ram touchdown and a missed extra point, the Trojans were on the move again. This Bob Gonzi pass to Greg Harris produced a first down at the Winston-Salem 32-yard line. Harris had to leave the game after